S phase. That period of interphase when new DNA is synthesized as part of replication of the chromatin. Salivary amylase, an enzyme secreted by the salivary glands that begins the breakdown of complex sugars and starches. Saprophytes, organisms that obtain their nutrients from decaying plants and animals. Saprophytes are important in recycling organic material. Sclerids, plant cells with thick secondary walls that provide the gritty textures in pairs. Secretin, a hormone produced in the duodenum that stimulates alkaline secretions by the pancreas and inhibits gastric emptying. Seminiferous tubules, tubules on the interior of the testis where sperm are produced. Sensor, in a closed system, the element that detects changes and signals the effector to initiate a response. Sieve cells, conducting cells in the phloem of vascular plants. Silurian period, the geological time period of the Paleozoic era following the Ordovician between 435 and 395 million years ago, when plants colonized the land. Sister chromatids, chromatids joined by a common centromere and carrying identical genetical information, unless crossing over has occurred. Slime molds, protistans that may represent a transition between protistans and fungi. Smog, a local alteration in the atmosphere caused by human activity, mainly an urban problem that is often due to pollutants produced by fuel combustion. Somatic cell, a cell that is not or will not become a gamete, the cells of the body. Sperm, the male gamete. Spermatogenesis, the development of sperm cells from spermatocytes to mature sperm. This includes meiosis. Spicules, needle-shaped skeletal elements in sponges that occur in the matrix between the epidermal and collar cells. Spleen, an organ that produces lymphocytes and stores erythrocytes. Sporophyte, the diploid stage of a plant exhibiting alternation of generations. The diploid, spore-producing phase of the plant life cycle. Stalk, a leaf's petiole, the slender stem that supports the blade of a leaf and attaches it to a larger stem of the plant. Start codon, the codon, AUG, on a messenger RNA molecule where protein synthesis begins. Superior vena cava, blood from the head returns to the heart through this main vein. Symbiosis, an interactive association between two or more species living together, may be parasitic, commensal, or mutualistic, the relationship between two organisms. Synaptic vesicles, vesicles at the synapse end of an axon that contain the neurotransmitters. Synergid, cells in the embryo sac of angiosperms that flank the egg cell. The pollen tube grows through one, usually the smaller, of the synergids. Systolic pressure, the peak blood pressure when ventricles contract. Taiga biome, the region of coniferous forest extending across much of the northern Europe, Asia, and North America, characterized by long cold winters and short cool summers and by acidic thin soils. Tarsals, the bones that make up the ankle joint. Taxon, term applied to a group of organisms comprising a given taxonomic category. Tectonic plates, segments of the lithosphere that comprise the surface of the earth, much the way the turtle shell is composed of its plates. Tendons, bundles of connective tissue that link muscle to bone. Fibrous connective tissue that connects muscle to bone. Tertiary structure, the folding of a protein's secondary structure into a functional three-dimensional configuration. Shape assumed by protein due to interactions between amino acids far apart on the chain. Testis, the male gonad, produce spermatozoa and male sex hormones. Thalamus, the brain region that serves as a switching center for sensory signals passing from the brain stem to other brain regions. Part of the diencephalon. Trachea, in insects and spiders, a series of tubes that carry air directly to cells for gas exchange. In humans, the air-conducting duct that leads from the pharynx to the lungs. Transcription, the synthesis of RNA from a DNA template, the making of RNA from one strand of the DNA molecule. True breeding occurs when self-fertilization gives rise to the same traits in all offsprings. Trypanosomes, a type of roundworm responsible for human disease associated with eating raw or undercooked pork. Tubal ligation, a contraceptive procedure in women in which the oviducts are cut, preventing the ova from reaching the uterus. Tubal pregnancy occurs when the morula remains in the oviduct and does not descend into the uterus. Tumor suppressor genes, genes that normally keep cell division under control, preventing the cells from responding to internal and external commands to divide. Turgor pressure, pressure caused by the cytoplasm pressing against the cell wall. Turner syndrome, in humans, a genetically determined condition in which an individual has only one sex chromosome, an X chromosome. Affected individuals are always female and are typically short and infertile. Umbilical cord, the structure that connects the placenta and the embryo, contains the umbilical arteries and the umbilical vein. Uninucleate, term applied to cells having one single nucleus. Unsaturated fat, a triglyceride with double covalent bonds between some carbon atoms. Uracil, the pyrimidine that replaces thymine in RNA molecules and nucleotides. Ureter, a muscular tube that transports urine by peristaltic contractions from the kidney to the bladder. Urethra, a narrow tube that transports urine from the bladder to the outside of the body. In males, it also conducts sperm and semen to the outside. Urine, fluid containing various waste that is produced in the kidney and excreted from the bladder. Uterus, the organ that houses and nourishes the developing embryo and fetus. The womb, female reproductive organ in which fertilized egg implants. Vaccination, the process of protecting against infectious disease by introducing into the body a vaccine that stimulates a primary immune response and the production of memory cells against the disease-causing agent. Vaccine, a preparation containing dead or weakened pathogens that when injected into the body elicit an immune response. Vacuoles, membrane-bound, fluid-filled spaces in plants and animal cells that remove waste products and store ingested food. Vagina, the tubular organ that is the site of sperm deposition and also serves as the birth canal. Vascular bundle, groups of xylem, phloem and cambium cells in stems of plants descended from the procambium embryonic tissue layer. Vascular cambium, a layer of lateral meristematic tissue between the xylem and phloem in the stems of woody plants. Lateral meristem tissue in plants that produce secondary growth. Vascular cylinder, a central column formed by the vascular tissue of a plant root, surrounded by parenchymal ground tissue. Vascular parenchyma, specialized parenchyma cells in the phloem of plants. Vascular plants, group of plants having lignified conducting tissues. Vascular system, specialized tissue for transporting fluids and nutrients in plants, also plays a role in supporting the plant, one of the four main tissue systems in plants. Vas deferens, the duct that carries sperm from the epididymis to the ejaculatory duct and urethra, the tube connecting the testis with the urethra. Vasectomy, a contraceptive procedure in men in which the vas deferens is cut and the cut ends are sealed to prevent the transportation of sperm. Surgical separation of the vas deferens so that sperm, while still produced, do not leave the body. Veins, thin-walled vessels that carry blood to the heart, units of the circulatory system that carry blood to the heart. Ventricle, the chamber of the heart that pumps the blood into the blood vessels that carry it away from the heart, the lower chamber of the heart through which blood leaves the heart. Venules, the smallest veins. Blood flows into them from the capillary beds, small veins that connect a vein with capillaries. Vertebrae, the segment of the spinal column, separated by discs made of connective tissue, singular vertebra. Vertebrate, any animal having a segmented vertebral column. Members of the subphylum Vertebrata includes reptiles, fishes, mammals, and birds. Vesicles, small membrane-bound spaces in most plants and animal cells that transport macromolecules into and out of the cell and carry materials between organelles in the cell. Viroids, infective forms of nucleic acid without a protective coat of protein, encapsulated single-stranded RNA molecules. Naked RNA, possibly of degenerated viruses that infect plants. Virus, infectious chemical agent composed of a nucleic acid, DNA and RNA, inside a protein coat.